Hey, welcome back to the new episode, new week, new year of the Win the One podcast. I'm Ken Tyner. To reintroduce myself, senior here at FRA. Alongside me is head football coach of the FRA Panthers, Coach Geisinger, and we are super excited to get this thing rolling back here in the the winter spring era here. So, Coach Geis, welcome on.
Yeah,
How are you?
excited.
Good.
Welcome, and I guess a late Happy New Year to you. And
Same to you.
we've been kind of pushed back. We've been wanting to get this rolling from a couple weeks ago, and that kind of rolled into our big snow apocalypse from last
That
week.
was crazy.
And but we're back and have a lot of really fun stuff to talk about as we push FRA football along into the future, and a lot of exciting things down the pike for this program and for our school. And just really excited also to have our first guest of the new year, senior offensive tackle, defensive lineman Luke Masterson with us. And Luke, welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Had the idea, Ken, as we talked about this podcast way back from last year and getting it started, of bringing a lot of really cool guests onto the show to talk about FRA, to talk about the football program, not necessarily just what FRA brings as far as the football program, but what FRA in our community has that makes us so special.
Yeah, you really get all those views that
Yeah.
we really want, and that's
For
great.
sure. And, but one piece is we kind of still are closer to tying up the football season from the 23 season and heading into 24. Wanted a chance to kind of highlight some of our guys that we really didn't get. We talked to a lot of our coaches, not all of our coaches. We'll get a chance to talk to all those guys as we move through the winter and get into the new year. But, a lot of our players who have bought into our culture, bought into this program, bought into what we're building. And, Luke's a guy that has recently committed and not just committed, signed his letter of intent to go on and play at the next level at the University of North Carolina. So congratulations to you on that, Luke. But, getting to know Luke Masterson, getting to know how football became part of Luke Masterson, how FRA became part of Luke Masterson. Luke, tell me about kind of, first and foremost, what brought you to FRA, what got you here, what excited you about FRA to begin with, and kind of, brought you here.
I kind of wanted to come to FRA for all of middle school. So I had a friend who went here, and so I heard about it. And so by the end of middle school, I just was kind of ready to leave and come here. And I never played football before, but I wanted to try it out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And you were being a tall guy, 6'6", right?
Yeah.
6'5", 6'6", 6'7".
I mean,
I don't know what are you officially?
I think I'm 6'7" right now, but coming in,
6'7".
I was probably 6'1".
Okay, but always a long, tall guy, right? And so basketball was was it out of first love for you, maybe initially?
I played basketball. It was my first sport, and I just played it my entire life up until sophomore year. So.
Okay, and then so what kind of pushed you into football? The first year you played football was, and Luke, for those that don't know him, I mean, why schools were drooling over him, and obviously he's a big physical player, and you got to see him play on Friday nights and helped pave our team to a lot of success over the past couple years here. But he's an athletic big guy, so he can move his feet, which is important at to play at a high level. I think there's a myth out there, Luke, that linemen out there just need to be big guys, but they need to be big athletes. So.
Yeah.
Having that basketball earlier in your career, moving your feet, and being able to be a long guy that can move was something that was very attractive to schools across the country. Obviously settled on UNC, which we'll get to here in a second. But talk about your career. Talk about how your career transpired here at FRA. How you felt like you've grown. When we first got here, I remember Coach Hansen and I sitting you down. What did you weigh when we first got here? I can't even remember.
I was like 220.
220 pounds, right now to a close to 6'7". 270 guy. So put on a lot of really good weight, and you look at Luke, and he holds it extremely well, and I'm excited to see what UNC does with him over the next couple of years. But talk a little bit about the things that are important to you about our program, about your years at FRA and our growth, and what do you kind of attribute to that as we kind of attribute our success to over the years.
I mean, apart from the obvious Ty Clark, I would say there was a big culture change coming in, and then also I think the coaching, just the way that we ran things. I think, our first few years here we had a lot of talent, but I'm not sure if the coaching like the playbook was I guess good enough. And I think when you guys came in here, just like I feel like at least from the offensive line standpoint, like my knowledge of the game grew a lot. And it was not just like, you just do this. It's like you kind of understand what's going on behind you and what, your guard and center are doing.
Okay.
So I think the better understanding of what's going on also helps.
Okay. You mentioned the cultural growth, right? You mentioned that. I mean, talk to me about, the Ty Clarks, the Luke Mastersons, the Bobby Councils, and a bunch of you. Your class had a lot of depth and a lot of productivity, right? As far as attributing to our success. As a football coach and as a player, the word culture is thrown around lightly. But we poured into that in our program. We really dove into it. When you say cultural growth, to you, what are some of the things you saw?
I think one of my favorite things were our manhood or WTO lessons every week. Just watching a video and then having small groups to talk about it, and like kind of what we learned, like you get to be a good man before you can be a good football player. Mm-hmm. I think that just brought us closer as a team.
Okay, well, good.
And the cultural standpoint, I can even add to this. Me playing football, like especially in my junior year when they first came, you really get to realize like everything that football teaches you. I think that's something that before Coach Geis and the new coaching staff came in. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. Like that really, that piece wasn't in there, but you realize that there's much more, and there's much more growth that you can have as a man and coming into like what it means to be a man. So that's good.
So Luke, you fast forward to now, okay, second semester senior now, getting ready to take that next step to North Carolina. Got to just talk with your line coach yesterday as he visited you, and excited to take that next step. Rewind back through this recruiting process and how it started, because obviously being here the last 2 years, I got to see a lot of that process with you and see it through, and it really took off pretty quickly for you, right?
Yep.
Walk through kind of what that process looked like for you, and maybe what led you to North Carolina. What kind of landed you on that versus some of the opportunities that you had?
I mean, my first offer was Vanderbilt, which came kind of as a surprise to me because I hadn't talked to any coaches or really been looking at any schools for football. And so when they asked me to come visit and they offered me, it was pretty surprising. But from there, me and my dad talked, and we decided like I wanted to go for academics first. And so that's why I was looking more into ACC schools, and then Vanderbilt was SEC. But
sure,
I mean, really, I feel like academics were the priority with that. Mm-hmm. And so I narrowed it down to I think my top 5 were UNC, Wake, Duke, Georgia Tech, and Vanderbilt. Is that 5?
Yeah. Well, those are all 5 pretty good schools,
yeah, so
right?
I narrowed down there, and I tried to eliminate bias, but I've always grown up a UNC fan because my dad went to law school there. Yeah. And so, I tried to not let that have any impact, but I just think that UNC has, the best academics and football out of the 5, just like a good balance, and so.
Okay. Well, obviously, listen, a great decision and a great fit for you, I think, and great things ahead, obviously on the horizon for you. Like it's just starting for you, and I'm so excited to be able to kind of follow you and support you through these next phases. Because like I said, I think your best is still ahead of you, and everyone always looked at you as a player as somebody that still had so much upside with your athleticism and your body type, and just how you were able to come along in the last 2 to 3 years as a football player, and your growth. If you continue that, right, the sky's the limit for you. So that's really exciting. So committing, right? Obviously, with your ties to North Carolina, you explained that. You said that was a big part of the decision was a high academic school. So how important was it to you and your family, one, to find a fit like FRA that supports our students in being great in everything they do, right? Great in the classroom, great with their faith, great in the community, great in sports. Was that a big part of your decision when choosing FRA, just like it was going from FRA to choosing UNC? Do you feel like there were some similarities there?
A little bit, yeah. I feel like, to be honest, when I was in middle school, I wasn't really thinking about the bigger picture like that. It was just like my friend went there, so I was like, I want to go there too.
Right.
I was just ready
Right.
to change it up. I didn't like Bremen Middle, and so I was like, I probably won't like Bremen High School either.
Okay. But, it's funny how that kind of falls into place, right? Because great student, GPA 4 something, right? And somebody that's obviously excelled in the classroom, excelled off the field, and really, like we preach to all our guys who aspire to be college football players, most of the time when you're doing right and doing, showing excellent habits in the classroom, that's usually going to follow to other opportunities also, for our guys that aspire to be collegiate level football players. That usually goes hand in hand. And, you look at two guys that are signing Division I scholarships, and you look at a Luke Masterson, you look at a Ty Clark, someone we'll get a chance to talk to later as we move on, very similar from that regard. So, Luke, appreciate you having you on. Appreciate everything you've done for our program. Look forward to continuing to push and support you, and look forward to you continuing to be a great mentor and role model for our younger players as we continue to move this thing forward. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the podcast of the spring Win the One, alongside Ken and Tyner, and alongside me as head coach of the FA Panthers, Coach Geis. We'll hop right into it. Coach, let's talk about kind of from the end of the season until now, kind of what's been going on football-wise. I think that some people don't really see. Maybe they think everything kind of falls off, but
no. That's a great question, Ken. And I think, it feels like that CPA game, the end of the game, that last kind of wrap-up podcast we did, it feels like that was 2 years ago.
Oh, I know.
And really, it wasn't all in the grand scheme of things. We had some holidays since then, and we had the new year and all that. But I think that just shows the countless things that our coaches and our players and our program's been going through since then. And you look at what a football team like ours and a program does. Obviously, you come into season and we have a lot of important player meetings and exit meetings where, myself as a head coach meets with each player and member of the coaching staff and member of our staff, in general, and goes through a kind of a process of talking about the year, talking about the season, getting feedback from both ends. It's really an open-ended conversation that we have that's, with every player, and being able to give them feedback from the coaching standpoint, from the coach's side, but also hear from them. I think that's equally, if not more so, important to hear from your players and hear from your staff. And then, as far as the player meetings go, you start getting into talking a little bit about things for moving forward into next year. They're very different meetings from when, whether it's a first-year player, freshman year, or whether it's a senior. And so, and I think it's important that we have opportunity to meet with those senior players that are moving out as well, because sometimes they have a very different perspective on, as seniors that are no longer going to be playing under your program, they'll always be part of the program, but sometimes, you'll hear they can be a little bit more honest with things and open with things just naturally because they're leaving the program. Sometimes you get some really good feedback and you hear some things and it's positive things. It's things that maybe, hey, we need to do a better job of or work on in this area. And I think it's really important to give them the opportunity to have that, have the floor and be able to talk. And because like we talk about in our program all the time, we talk about owning their 20, everyone has their 20 square feet of the program. It doesn't matter if they're a first year player as a freshman. Doesn't mean if they're a 4-year starter. Doesn't mean if they're the head coach and me or one of our assistant coaches, position coaches, one of our volunteer assistants, our athletic trainers, our training assistant. It doesn't matter. They all have ownership within the program. So it's important to have that feedback. So that interview process kind of goes through all the way through the holidays because I want to make sure I block off a good chunk of time for each player to have that time, as much time as that's needed. Some are shorter and some are longer. And like I said, so we get into a number of things with those meetings, but those are really important kind of planning and setting the foundation as we look to go into next year. Because any coach will tell you that's looking to continue to push a program and continue to keep us relative and pushing forward and becoming, continuing to grow. We're always looking to change for the better.
Exactly.
We've won 21 games in 2 years.
That's awesome.
I think the old school mentality might be, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I don't believe in that. I believe in what can we do better? What can we continue to enhance that we're doing well? What are some of the things we're not doing? So I guess that's a long-winded answer of telling you kind of there's a lot of review over the last course of the last couple months,
Sure.
and over these.
Yeah.
So those meetings were taking place amongst coaches and amongst myself and players, amongst our other position coaches and players. We go through a lot of equipment reviews. So it's, Coach Hansen would be one to talk to on that. And we might get a chance to bring him back on and talk the operations, our director of football operations. He's going through inventorying and things for ordering for next year, and things we need to get helmet reconditioning and send off. A lot of the things that you see that just kind of show up at the start of a football season when we start come spring again, and you just assume it happens, but there's a lot of work as far as making that,
the behind the
to be,
scenes.
and to be operating at a high level. So,
Exactly.
so those pieces. Obviously, we had our banquet. We had our football banquet. We were able to celebrate and send off our seniors, and that was really nice. We were able to do that in the chapel this year and really create a setting and environment. I think that was really a little more special for those seniors to be able to honor each of them and send them off. And like I said, we say send them off, but they'll always be part of this program and always be part of the success of this program as we move forward. And able to, I'm not a coach that's big into a ton of MVPs and individual awards and accolades and those things, but we're able to recognize those guys that achieve certain milestones and things like that, but at the same time present some of our special and unique awards as well. And that, is always capped off by our Win the One. Win the One podcast, our WTO award, which is an all-encompassing award that is voted on by the players themselves.
Oh, wow.
So, Ty Clark took home that one, and I think that's probably not a surprise that the players voted him as that guy, but that's really amongst some of the other awards that were given, our core value awards, and some other awards that were more meaningful to us as coaches that are, instead of just MVPs of an offensive MVP or defensive MVP, and all those things are important.
Right.
We like to award players on our team, that really hold characteristics and values that we believe breed winning success and winning programs and sustain success. And usually, and a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times that goes hand in hand with performance and things like that as well. So Ty took that award home this year, following Taylor from last year. So those are our first two award winners, and again, very fitting for those guys. But had a very nice banquet, and then really the other big piece going this time of year is the recruiting process. We talked to Luke, obviously, but we're still working to find homes for a lot of our 2024 graduates that are wanting to go on and play college football at the next level.
That's awesome. Well, now obviously you're doing recruiting, helping that.
Yep.
What's kind of in the future? Obviously, it's January, almost February now.
Sure.
And then obviously you're looking forward to in May. Obviously, that's when it kind of starts to ramp up again.
Yeah. I mean,
what's going on from January to May?
Yeah. So again, a lot of things continue to ramp up. Obviously, the colleges continue to flow our hallways daily, which is great.
Right.
It's a good problem to have when you're having sometimes 6-8 schools a day coming through in the open recruiting times for them to come through and talk to our players. And again, still trying to find the right home for some of our 24 guys, and then looking ahead to our 25s, 26s, and even 2027 guys. So recruiting starts early now. That's just kind of how it is. But so we have that ongoing right now currently. Our offensive defensive staffs are already hard at work talking about our, getting ready for clinics through the rest of winter into spring, when we'll do some clinics individually. Our big team clinic where we'll go off to a school, and we're still finalizing plans on what that looks like. So I look forward to talking more about what that looks like with you guys. Yeah. But those are the big things, and then starting to just kind of look at our roster for next year, and kind of looking at what our identity is going to be as far as schematics, as far as offensively and defensively and special teams, because every year your roster changes, your roster turns over. That leadership in that room is different, and we obviously hope to create some continuity and some, in our leadership as we grow and as these guys grow within our culture program that Luke was talking about earlier, and but at the same time, your skill sets look different year to year. So I think you've got to adjust and adapt and look at how what we do can best fit our roster, and that's really important as a coach to be able to do that year to year. Sure. So starting to look at that, we haven't scratched the surface of it yet. We have a lot of time to do that, but we have already started meetings and kind of dug into that a little bit as we start plans for next year and for the spring. So really those are the two things, kind of looking forward over the next few weeks. That recruiting piece, really making sure our 24 kids feel good about their plans for next year.
Right.
We really take a lot of pride in working with those kids from when they step foot on campus. If they aspire to be collegiate level athletes, we want to help them do that and help their families through that process the best we can.
Yep.
The best we can, and we do. That's important to us. And then, like I said, looking ahead to our 2024 team. And then the last thing I would say is finishing up hosting our. We got a lot of free winter clinics and opportunities for our own current FRA students around the mid-state to have opportunities to come to FRA and it's like I said, it's open to anybody to have an opportunity to come and work with our coaching staff, work clinics and work some football skills and some different things. We'll have some cultural clinics. We'll have a lot of things that I look forward to talking about as we move forward through the winter and into the spring. So yeah, so we're looking forward to a lot of opportunities there to as we continue to host things that really showcase what we're trying to do here and what we plan on doing here for a long time.
Exactly. And obviously, when do you start scheduling like games for next year? When does that take
So
place?
that's a great question. So the schedule is in place for next year.
It is, okay.
So we're on the back end of a 2-year cycle. So
Okay.
TWSOA operates on 2-year cycles. So
Okay.
so next year's schedule will really be an identical schedule to last year.
Oh, okay.
It's just flip-flops the home and away location.
Oh, okay.
So
easy.
so that makes it easy. It's always easier as a coach when you're on the back end of a 2-year cycle because you don't have to worry about all the scheduling of non-region opponents and things like that, which is a can sometimes be a huge matrix to try to figure out. So I always like these second year in some contracts because I can worry about other more important things now
So
than
you
that.
do like the double year.
Yeah,
You
well,
do
that's
it on you.
standard for everybody in the state. So everybody's running on those 2-year cycles. So every state, if you look at other states like Georgia, surrounding states around us, sometimes they're on opposite cycles where they'll be looking for schedules, but we're in the middle of our schedule. So it can sometimes be a mess when you're looking for a game, that sort of thing, to try to line it up, with other teams. But yeah, so our schedule's set. We're hoping to get our winter and spring calendar out to our families here in the next couple weeks as we finalize our summer schedule, practice schedule, 7-on-7s, scrimmages, the whole deal, and kind of get that released here in the next couple weeks.
And some new surprises, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, well, Coach, it was great talking to you as always. We can't wait till next week. Hope to tune in next week, and we'll see you all then. See ya.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Appreciate it.